Your what are off?
My pants are off.
Oh. Cool.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Deadite-a-Thon, where we discuss Evil Dead 2, also known as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn, I believe. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
I think we should change it to the Evil Dead-a-Thon.
If you think?
No.
Oh.
I was going to do that every episode if I changed it.
I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't think you would.
Sure. But speaking of people I do care about, thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan, the
Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth,
Patron of Hope,
and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yeah.
And thank you to Horsemen Comics Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.forhorsemancomics.com. And say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, just don't go in his basement.
Yeah. Ew. No. Trigger warning, gore, but not... I really think it's significantly reduced from the first movie.
Yeah. I think that this movie goes out of its way to be gross. Maybe not necessarily in a gory way. Like, you got, like, the fat zombie bodysuit, but I mean, is that gonna trigger?
It's not gross like the first movie,
yeah.
With like random bits of applesauce stuff ooking, and I don't know. And there's not a rape scene like there is in the first movie, but there's still an instance of a woman being tied up and restrained against her will, so that's obviously something that can't be triggering. And what is your history with Evil Dead 2?
It was the third one of these that I watched.
After Army of Darkness?
Yeah, I watched Army of Darkness, and I didn't even know Evil Dead was connected to it when I first saw Evil Dead. Like, my brain never made it, because I watched these movies when I was, like, somewhere between 7 and 9. And then I finally saw this one years later, and I'm like, what? Why are they changing the end of the first movie?
Yeah.
Now I can Google that and go, it's a rights issue. When I was younger, that bothered the crap. Like, inconsistencies in media were the easiest ways to get me to not like something.
Yeah, that bothered me a lot. That, I mean, still does to a point, but that kind of stuff did bother me a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, continuity I used to just be super big on.
I saw that my brother showed me The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 probably, I want to say it was a sophomore in high school, if not that, but close. And I wasn't crazy about either. I did like the second one a little bit more, but I never went on and watched Army of Darkness, so that tells you how much I enjoyed these in high school.
In my head, you're going to enjoy it the most, but I have been wrong before.
Well, I think I'm hopeful, because I do like the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background, this movie was released on March 13th, 1987. It is the only movie that I'm aware of that is considered both a remake and a sequel. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
I mean, yeah, when I Googled it, because I was Googling that stuff today, it's because Sam Raimi didn't have the rights to his own movie because they switched studios. So they couldn't use any of the shots from it. So they're like, okay, we'll just like refilm the first movie, but make it like 5 minutes long or however many minutes long.
It reminded me of the first scene of Back to the Future Part 2, where they literally just redo shot for shot the last scene of Back to the Future because they recast Jennifer.
Yeah.
And that's just like, let's just do the whole scene over again with a new girl.
And
it's your kids, Marty! Sorry. Something has got to be done about your kids! I'm sorry.
God damn it. He's catching me off guard tonight. We're tired. We just recorded a 3-hour episode.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, that really bothered me because I didn't understand it. I was like, why would you do that when you had an ending? Just continue from the ending.
It bothered me when I watched it today.
Yeah.
Probably not as much as it bothered you when you were a kid. I assumed there was a reason for it.
Yeah. Like these days I can think of logical reasons and I can even Google them. Mm-hmm. I'm also just sitting there like, why wouldn't you just, if you can't show the last part of the end, just continue from it?
Yeah, I think that's probably the decision I would have went with.
Yeah.
But it didn't exactly kill the movie for me.
Yeah, and I mean, this is... Evil Dead was successful, but this is the one that really kind of, I think, got that fan base on board.
Yeah.
So, what do I know?
When I speak to most people about this franchise, this is the movie that comes up the most, I feel like.
I have a collector's edition of this movie.
Cool Bates.
Comes in a little Necronomicon book.
Oh. So this movie was directed and co-written by Sam Raimi, who we discussed more in the previous episode.
This is a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, it is, buddy. Yeah, it is. It was co-written by Scott Spiegel, who is buddies with Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, and you can actually look up collections of movies they made when they were younger on an 8mm camera. One movie Scott Spiegel wrote is called Attack of the Helping Hand, which is a horror short film starring the hamburger helper glove. And that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are both in that.
I want to watch that.
It's on YouTube. I think we may do like not tonight,
but like a pre-show or something.
Yeah, we'll do something. He also wrote The Rookie, which is a 1990 cop movie starring Charlie Sheen and Clint Eastwood, and is directed by Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
He wrote and directed From Dusk Till Dawn 2. He wrote Evil Dead 1 and 2, the musical. And he directed Hostel Part 3.
Okay.
So, he's touching on some big horror franchises there.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best iterations of those horror franchises. I don't know. I've not seen From Dusk Till Dawn 2 or Hostel Part 3, but...
I have not seen... either of those. Hostel Part 2. I mean, Hostel 1 isn't very good, but Hostel Part 2, I was just like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. This movie had a budget of $3.5 million, which is significantly more than the first movie, but considering how much money the first movie made, makes a lot of sense that they got more money.
Yeah.
Now, it did make $5.9 million, so it is a financial success, but not quite to the same ratio that the first movie was. Part of that, from what I read, is that it had a very limited theatrical release because of the content in the movie. They didn't want it to get an X rating, so they had to pick and choose the theaters they would release it in.
I guess I'm just so desensitized by this point. What we accept in movies now is totally different.
I honestly think the first one is significantly more outrageous than this one.
Yeah. And some of the gore we see today in movies that are only rated R
legitimately looks real.
Yeah.
Or at least what I would imagine it would look like.
This is silly gore.
Yeah, it's very obvious fake, but in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
This movie is highly acclaimed, as we said, and is a critical success. Has something stupid, like a 94 or something on
it. Was about 20 points higher than what I was expecting.
Yeah. And of course, it spawned 3 more films, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, and Evil Dead Rise, and the TV series Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Not to mention video games and comics and blah, blah, blah. Sam Raimi was nominated for a Saturn Award for Best Horror Film Director guy. It was also nominated for Saturn Award for Best Special Effects and Best Makeup. It lost all three.
Typical Hollywood.
Saturn Awards 1987. Okay, so Best Horror Film, Evil Dead 2 lost to The Lost Boys.
Okay.
Other nominees were Hellraiser, Near Dark, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and Pumpkinhead.
Damn, rigged.
I probably would have, I haven't seen all of those, but I probably would have given that to Hellraiser with a close second to Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, that's where I would put it.
And then Best Special Effects. Alright, Makeup. It lost to RoboCop.
Okay, fair.
For makeup, that makes sense. Other nominees were Harry and the Hendersons, Hellraiser, The Lost Boys, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And then special effects, it also lost to RoboCop. The other nominees were Inner Space, Masters of the Universe, Predator, and The Witches of Eastwick. Man, 1987 was stacked.
Yeah, that's some steep competition for the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That all makes sense.
Yeah, I can't even be mad at most of that.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Structure and themes. Structure. Just talking about story in general. I feel like they paid a little bit more attention to making sure there was a story.
Like a plot. Yeah.
To the point where there's like references to things that have happened. There's cutaways to things happening in another area. There are flashbacks. I really appreciated the world building and the lore that they injected into this, where the first one just felt so loosey-goosey.
It was very Cabin in the Woodsy, where it almost felt like someone just kind of dropped the book in there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to make the choice. This is what you guys deal with.
Yeah, and we're just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's just like one random crazy thing to another random crazy thing.
There is a lot of that in this, but...
Yeah, yes, but it opens on like a prologue explaining the lore of the book, and then it's kind of interspersed with little bits from the book where, there's this flashback where we found it in this castle, and the daughter of the professor's been away looking for missing pages, and it adds more to it. Like, that stuff really helps me. Like, where I was talking about in the first episode, where that movie is just one gross thing after another gross thing, and I don't have anything to focus on. In this movie, I can focus on that little bit of lore that they give you, and it gives me like a positive to kind of focus on.
I don't know if they succeed, but they at least tried to make characters have personality.
Yeah, at least compared to the first movie.
Like, Ash Williams' personality, the things people associate with him these days, all kind of started in this movie. He's usually portrayed as being very insensitive.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So we're jumped to characters. We're talking about Bruce Campbell, Ash Williams.
Yeah.
Because there are no themes.
Yeah, themes are gore. Gore themes, no.
No. Alright, so Bruce Campbell.
You know, he's known for being a horn dog. I wrote down this wonderful quote: "Why don't we have some champagne? After all, I'm a man, you're a woman. At least last I checked."
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed. It's mostly even played like as a joke against him in Ash vs. the Evil Dead, where it's like he's this horny old man.
He feels much more like a character.
Yeah.
In the first one, he feels like a victim, just like a person who is thrown into this and is just running for their life constantly.
Yeah. And in this, you know, they gave him more one-liners. They made him smarmy. His sort of casual racism I didn't see in this one, because he is in Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and I'm trying to look for like when that starts.
Not in this movie.
I think it's probably they just added that because of like the time frame these movies were made, because he was already kind of like a player in this.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yo, girl, I gave you that new necklace. Let's get busy." But at least the necklace comes back. It plays a role.
It does. It did. Yeah, I knew what that was.
Yeah.
Sarah Berry plays Annie, who is the professor's daughter. And there's not a lot to her, but you do get a sense of who she is. Her dad's a professor. She cares about her dad's research. She participates in her dad's research. She loves her parents. You get a little bit of a sense who she is, unlike all the other characters, like the two girlfriends and Ash's sister in the first movie.
Yeah.
It's just like girl A, B, and C.
Yeah. She's, her and her dad, anyway, are basically H.P. Lovecraft characters. Hey, we found this weird cryptic shit. Let's read it.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't do that.
Let's see what this does. And it's almost like she's going in with the expectation that it will indeed do something. It opens the door to other worlds, or so they say.
And then Jake and Bobby Joe are just kind of the two dumb rednecks who get caught in the middle of it.
Yeah.
They're not really characters. They're there so that there can be a higher body count.
I thought Jake was a little funny, at least like the close-ups, and he was overacting, but it matched the tone of this movie.
They all over. I mean, Bruce Campbell is a big overactor.
Again, this is where he sort of established that for himself. Where in the first film, I felt like he was like trying to do a role.
Yeah.
And in this, I felt like his direction was just go over the top.
Absolutely go over the top.
And then that's what he became known for. To now where he can only ever play Bruce Campbell. That's all people will hire him for.
And regular listeners know I'm not a big fan, but I think what he does works.
Yeah.
The tone that this movie has, you can't play it super serious.
He should have been the security guard in Five Nights at Freddy's.
I'd watch it. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, he just screamed the whole time. There's a fox!
Can you compare the Deadites from this movie to the Deadites from the first movie?
It's roughly the same, but more over the top. Because, like, in the first movie, they were, like, laughing. Like, to them, it was, like, laughing, giggling over-the-top stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Only in the first movie, and I could be proven wrong, but every time I watch that movie, I get the impression that they were trying to be scary or creepy. Where in this one, they're like, no, let's just have fun with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they did set out to make a horror movie in The Evil Dead, and maybe they weren't trying to scare the pants off you like when they made Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they were definitely trying to be serious.
Yeah.
And it came across as funny, and that's why the movie ended up working. And they learned from that, and they said, okay, so let's lean into that.
Yeah, people enjoy that.
Yeah, and obviously it worked out it worked out for them.
You get a little bit of I don't want to call it origins or character, but you get, I guess, a taste of it for the Deadites. Like, they're more communicative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are the things that were and will be again. We want your lives.
Apparently there was a point where the seas were filled with blood.
Yeah.
And that blood was used to write the Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
And it doesn't explain that, but I like that little bit because it makes me think.
It was during the Crusades. They dipped their quills into the sands of Jerusalem.
Yeah, that's sweet. I like it.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Alright, so scary shit. Is this movie scary? Which we just answered.
No. It's funny. I think it's funny. I think parts of it are funny.
I actually don't think it's funny, but I do think this movie is enjoyable to a point. But before we get off of the scary thing, there is one part that legitimately made me hold my breath.
Yeah.
And it's when Ash is walking down the stairs and the witch grabs his ankles and he falls forward with that chainsaw. I was just like, that could have been so bad.
That could have been
so bad. But yeah.
I loved a lot of the stuff that was filmed in the basement, like when they first threw Ash down there. Mm-hmm. I couldn't bring myself to chop up my wife, so I had just buried her. Like, Professor, you should have known that wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was what I was screaming the whole last episode. It's like, they say you have to dismember them. But he does dismember Linda in this movie. He cuts her head off.
Like in this one, Ash has, like, almost no qualms about it.
So, actually, I was going to bring that up. I feel like he goes from I love you, Linda, to cutting off her head really fast. Like, she goes outside, he follows her, and she's just, like, acting weird, and he cuts her head off with a shovel. It's like, there's, like, no decision-making. It's like, Anakin, did you even try not to fall to the dark side?
No, he's so light side he could sense the dark side.
Yeah, okay. That's true. I mean, he was right to do it, but he just did it really fast.
And then you got the stop-motion dancing. Which I guess brings us to effects.
I think ultimately why I like this movie more than the first one is because I like the effects more in this one. I know this, like, most people think this is like a super funny movie. It doesn't really hit my funny bone the way it does for a lot of other people. But I think overall the effects are much better, and I love the stop motion in this movie, both.
I like the Deadites' makeup. It's, like, very pronounced.
I think the makeup is much better than it is in the first movie.
And the look that they kind of give the Deadites in this one, that's what ultimately carries over to the other adaptations. Good. Except for maybe Evil Dead Rise, which kind of does its own thing. Mm-hmm. It's still over the top and silly, but...
So, feel free to just tell me you're not going to... But, okay, so... There's Evil Dead, and then there's this one, which we just talked about what it is. And then Army of Darkness is a direct sequel. Mm. Evil Dead 2013 is a soft reboot. Mm. What is Evil Dead Rise? Is it...
It's like, it apparently just takes place in the same universe.
As the original three, or...?
They were very vague.
Okay.
It's like they wanted to use the name and the basic concept of Deadites.
Bruce Campbell's not in it?
He's not in it at all. And they don't reference it. And it might even be a different book. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to use Deadites, but it's played a little bit more seriously until it's not. And I think the point is very obvious, but it drags on the seriousness a lot longer.
What I remember of the 2013 one is that it's serious the whole way through. Is that true?
I remember thinking that it was going to be when I went in, and then when I watched it, it was just funny.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Again, I've been wrong. My memory's fooled me before.
Okay. Overall, I just think the production... obviously, it's better because they have more money.
Yeah.
But...
You got the giant tree dead-eyed at the end.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny because it reminds me of the thing in Hellraiser, which I hated.
Yeah.
But that's because it was, like... so wildly different from the book.
Yeah, and it also kind of contrasted with the other Cenobites.
Yeah.
Where this kind of matched the tone.
Did it also remind you of the thing from...
Yeah, because it had the flapping jaw, mm-hmm. and it had the one larger eye and the one tinier eye.
Yeah.
It was... I was going to bring that up, but you beat me to it.
Been on this podcast for too long.
Yeah. At least you're paid for this one.
Yeah.
Kiss me, fat boy.
Your significant other turns into a Deadite and wants to smash. Do you smash?
I know I shouldn't.
Yeah. But you kind of want to know, don't you?
Yeah.
Same. Henrietta, do you smash?
Which one is Henrietta?
The fat one in the basement.
The mom.
Yeah.
No.
Only if she sings me the lullaby.
Still no. I'm sorry. I'm into all sorts of kinks, but like over 60 is not one of them.
Not the bloated corpse in the basement.
Unless you're that woman from the Bowflex commercial.
Oh my god, right?
Yeah. But I think I'm pretty sure Beck and I both have her as a pass. Like, it's okay. And granted, that infomercial's like 20 years old, so I know she doesn't look like that anymore. But...
No, she still does because she uses the Bowflex.
I need a Bowflex.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Power of Christ compels you. You kind of get an exorcism using the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
And they kind of play into that of, like, using the very thing that summons them against it.
I don't really like, there's so many horror movies where, like, the resolution is you read these magic words and they go away.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so common that it doesn't really bother me, but when I put it under a microscope, it kind of bothers me. But it is what it is.
At least there was a consequence.
Yes. There was a consequence.
Yeah.
It's what's the Full Metal Alchemist?
Equivalent exchange.
Equivalent exchange, yes. Homework. Pretend that there is no army of darkness. And where is it exactly that Ash has landed after he's sucked into that portal?
In the middle of the Hunger Games. And he kills all the kids with his chainsaw.
Oh. And he gets all the food.
Yeah. And that's his good end.
So I think he was sucked into Monty Python England. And he ends up joining Arthur on his quest. And when he finds his first deadite, instead of killing it, he recruits it to walk behind him with a pair of coconuts and make the noise like he's riding on a horse.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I was honestly expecting Lord of the Rings.
I like to be unpredictable. Not really. Versus, I don't know, Stu Redman versus Dewey Griffin.
Fran Goldsmith versus Franny Smith.
Oh, it's just like a Stephen King characters versus Seth MacFarlane characters.
Yeah, it's a battle royale.
Ah, okay. I like it. Hold on. Peter Goldsmith versus Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more of those. So it's just all Stephen King characters versus all Seth MacFarlane characters. That the Family Guy, American Dad, Cleveland Show, The Orville.
Yeah.
Just like all of it.
All of them.
Ted.
Ted.
Ted as the bear.
Yeah.
Versus Teddy Wyzak from The Stand.
Yeah, see, we got this.
Okay.
We're geniuses.
I like it. For further reading, if you like Evil Dead 2...
other Evil Dead movies, other horror comedies.
Yeah. Cool.
Did we do Kings and Koontzes?
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
We didn't do that or rankings. What's your king?
I'm gonna go with Ash because he's so much more distinct in this one that it stands out.
Okay.
I like the chainsaw arm. I like him getting his shotgun and just a lot of the stuff that becomes iconic about the character started in this movie. Everything I like about him from Ash versus the Evil Dead started here.
Is the whole groovy thing, do you think that's like overplayed? Is that like the cake is a lie? Or is it just it's perfect and shut up?
I think it's overplayed by the fans to the point where I'll tell you what my Koontz is for the remake.
Okay.
Is the after credit scene is Bruce Campbell literally just looks at the camera and says groovy, but he's not in the movie in any other scene. He's not a character. It's just like the worst after credit scene of all time. Or mid credit scene of all time.
And what's your Koontz for this movie?
that line leads to that.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I guess it flirts with the idea of characters just enough to where I wish there was a little bit more.
They could have one less like gross gory scene and one more character building scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
No, wait, no, I know what it is.
Okay.
Because I remember making a note about this. There's a scene where the camera's like shifting, and there's like a sound. Shift a sound. And it made me physically ill. And it's a very Sam Raimi scene. It's a very like, I'm going to do a bunch of like quick zooms and moving the camera around.
There's so many of that.
But this one was like very pronounced and it made me car sick. just sitting there watching it in my living room.
Okay. My king is one of two effects, just the two effects that I like the most, and I have a hard time deciding between them, but I just decided. All right, it's when Linda's headless body just bursts in to the shed.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that was one of like the few things that surprised me, and I've seen this movie. I haven't seen it for a long time, but I've seen it. But it looks good, and it genuinely surprised me, and it was one of the few things I thought was kind of funny. And
I like that he knocks the chainsaw back into her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cut up my girlfriend.
Man.
But I also... and just generally, I like the effects overall. I like the lore building and the prologue. I like the end. I like the end a lot. Koontz is kind of hard. I still don't... Even though I'm much more positive on this one, I still don't love it. Like, I definitely don't think it's... top 10 greatest horror movies of all time, like a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am having trouble just coming up with a Koontz.
I was having a... That's the thing, is I think that it's enjoyable enough to where, like, a lot of the lows don't stick out nearly as bad.
I guess it could have... And this kind of goes along with your Koontz, but I think it could have been just structured a little better. Maybe just with a couple more scenes that build the story and the characters, and instead of it just like one less gross random thing.
Yeah. It's either that or add a bunch more gross random things.
Yeah, that was kind of the first movie, and I wasn't such a big fan of that one. Rankings, I did mine ahead of time, but I'll let you go first.
All right, where's my Evil Dead one at?
I think you had it at number 18, below Reanimator and above the original Firestarter.
My opinion of this movie sort of increased on watching it. I'm going to put it above The Evil Dead. But I still feel like Reanimator is just the better version of this movie.
I 100% agree.
It's like, it's the funny zombie movie with gore that's just also has characters and, just a little bit more going for it that I can get behind.
Okay, for me, it's pretty low, but what you'll have to consider is it's significantly higher than the first. So I ranked it at number 66, which is one below Alien Resurrection and one above Watchers, but that's like 14 spots above where I ranked the first movie.
Yeah. At
number 80. So that's a pretty significant jump in opinion from the first movie to the second movie.
I forgot you put it below Lolita.
I actually that was part of my rearrangement.
Oh, okay.
I actually bumped the original Lolita up a few slots.
Oh, can I bump mine up to number 1?
If you
want. I'm
it.
kidding, no. I'm actually pretty happy with most of my list.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't make like any like
major ones,
major changes. And I think my top 10 is I didn't make a single change in it. Coming on the Horror Babylon, our next 2 Sunday episodes, we're wrapping up The Exorcist with the 2 prequel movies, and then our next book episode on November 19th will be Battle Royale by Koshun Takami. And then our next 2 bonus episodes on Thursday the 16th of November, we are doing Army of Darkness, and then we're going to take a quick break from the Deadite-a-Thon. Thursday on Thanksgiving Day, we are going to release an episode on The Simpsons Thanksgiving of Horror, specifically the segment The Last Thanksgiving. I haven't told you about this because I wanted to tell you about this while we were recording. I forget it's a recent season where they decided to do a Thanksgiving of Horror episode, which it's a Treehouse of Horror with 3 shorts, but they're all Thanksgiving themed.
Okay.
The one that we're going to review is a parody of Alien and The Blob. Okay. Basically like an Alien premise, but instead of a xenomorph, it's like a blob.
Okay.
You'll see. It's a pretty good one, and it's just the kids.
That's exciting.
It's just like Bart, Lisa, Nelson, Milhouse, Martin. It's just the kids. It's pretty decent. We'll record that and we'll release it on Thanksgiving. And speaking of being thankful, I have to say thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben, the 4th Patron of Hope. And Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
And thank you to Horsemen Comics to Gaming, who I forgot to mention, they sponsor the Deadite-a-Thon. So definitely check them out at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, at the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.forhorsemancomics.com and say hello to Ronald the Third Krampus of Christmas. If you shop there, online or in person, make sure to mention us.
Yep.
And
it helps us out a lot.
It does. And also, like, share, and subscribe, and comment. Do all that stuff.
Yeah, do all the YouTube rigmarole.
Rigmarole! You can do most of that stuff on, like, the podcast apps, too.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Even if you just want to comment on my sexy laugh.
It is pretty good. I gotta say, it's an S-tier laugh. It's like you, Tim Curry, and Krusty the Clown. Those are like the three S-tier. Okay. Thank you for rewatching Evil Dead 2.
I had a good time.
And recording. Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials, and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody. Finger guns. Oh, groovy.
Groovy.
Yeah.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the horrorofbabylonpodcast@gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.
The Bear-a-thon!
That's a good one.
Cocaine Bear.
Winnie the Pooh,
Blood and Honey. What's the Leonardo DiCaprio Grizzly movie? I don't know. We'll pitch this to Ron. We'll come up with a list of movies.
Grizzly.
Yeah. Alright, we'll come up with a list of movies.